Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another educationalising, banter-driven and crack-filled episode of Three Blokes, Ball BOD. And tonight, because of the Six Nations and a number of the games have been cancelled, we are changing things around a bit. We've got, and I have to apologise for people who inundated yesterday with messages about where were we last night at 20-30 hours. Yes, unfortunately, the internet in our estate, everything went down, so we tried to come up with something. But anyway, we got it working today. So we are here tonight, and we're going to look at a number of different things. You will see at the beginning of the show and on the comments we put there today, tonight's show is brought to you by our good friends at the Asia Security and Protection Group, who are currently flat out based in Hong Kong, but working globally, getting people out to the Eastern region. And transporting them and providing security and executive protection and getting people out of the region. So again, we couldn't do the interview we were going to do with the group managing director Martin Franks on Monday because he had to get back to Hong Kong because they are so inundated. But so all the people who have messaged me, we've passed those details on. If you've got any family in the region or you need to move stuff around the globe during the lockdown period, then contact me or contact the Asia. We will help you on. We are, as ever, sustained by our good friends at coffeedog.ie, who can be going, the official suppliers to Three Blokes, Ball and BOD. And tonight is the show is called the Matthew J. Watkins Memorial Show. Now, Matthew was a player for Scarlets, Gloucester, the Dragons, and he played 18 times between 2003 and 2006 for Wales as centre. He died of very rare pelvic cancer last week. And we thought that, and he was a great man. And even when he was ill, he cycled across America, I think it was, and raised money for the cancer care that he was getting for the, where he was. It's just indicative of the man, great player and a great man. He leaves behind Stacey, his wife, and two young lads. And so we thought tonight that everybody is touched by cancer, no matter about COVID-19 at the moment, which is dreadful, which we'll come on to. But Matthew J. Watkins represents all those people who have died from cancer, who are struggling with cancer, or all those people, family and friends that who have got it at the moment. So that's why tonight we have done this show in the memory of the former Wales centre, Matthew J. Watkins. And today's the fifth anniversary of the passing of the great Sir Terry Pratchett, who once said, to paraphrase him, "A man is never dead while his name is still spoken." So tonight we raise a glass to former Wales centre Matthew J. Watkins. Matthew, God rest you, and good luck to your family. And you are added in our thoughts at our little bit tonight. Right, on with the show. Let's bring in each of my panelists. I'm going to bring them all straight away. We have White Walker 1, who can unmute himself now. Feel free to unmute yourself. It is Nigel Quigley up in Ulster. Nigel, good evening. How are you?
How you doing, guys? Good to be on again.
It is the funny man himself. He's also known as the Wicklow Warrior or the Beast of Bray. I'm going to move that. Move over a little bit that way, mate, because I've got you blocked up there by the logo from tonight's supporters. I'll try and get that off for you in a minute. It is the man himself, the man formerly known as, we can't say his name in public. He is only known as Kigo. Kigo, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Welcome from the centre of the lockdown. How is everybody?
Absolutely good. And two returning good friends. All of you will have seen it started last year, lads, I think, if I remember rightly. We did have you on last year. The story of Mam's Purse, the Guinness Six Nations advert about how their mother left them strict instructions when she passed away that they were to spend all her gotten gains on going to rugby. And so they are the stars. And actually, last year we spoke to, got some backstories, which we just wouldn't have 3 days to go into. But please welcome back Di and Gareth Rees. Di, Gareth, how are you, lads?
Good, thank you. Hope everyone's well.
Brilliant. Awesome.
Absolutely sure, mate, everybody. What is that?
Listen, you're welcome to the show. Tonight we're going to rattle through because of the Six Nations round 3. It was only a couple of games and there's only one game if it's still last this weekend. So we're going to have a little rattle through the games last weekend and what we thought. We're going to have a look at Scrums. Great idea there from Gareth. And Scrums now, are they overcoached by the referees? Are they fit for purpose with the crooked feeds in and all that? There's interesting discussion this week, and so it was really good. So we're going to look at that. And we are going to also look at aggressive balance in sport, i.e., it's a very physical contact game. It is very aggressive, but where does the line of aggression start, and where does it finish in the game of rugby? When you see, it was part and parcel. Seen a couple of punch-ups last week, stuff like that. There was other things that are going on that we're not really going to cover tonight because they've been done to death. But the red cards with the no-shoulder tackles, stuff like that. It's all aggression, but where is the line? First of all, though, a couple of things on Bod's breaking news, lads. I'll bring you in on these. One thing, the professional rugby players Wales, their chairman, who is the great the Cardiff Blues captain next to Ulster, number 8, Nick Williams. He condemned an incident that included alleged racial slurs against a player of Pacific heritage at a Cardiff Blues Welsh Premier game at Aberafan last Saturday. The incident, which was overheard by the player's wife and children, caused uproar amongst the players and deeply disturbed other supporters, which included the Professional Rugby Players Wales board member Nick Williams and his family. Are we seeing more of this, lads? Are we, or is it just Keegan? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's unfortunate because the more popular any sport gets, and we've come a long way in the last 20 years. Even on our in our neck of the woods, we've gone. Sorry, I've got the advertisement in my face there. We've gone from kind of 20 people in Donnybrook up to 80,000 in Croke Park in a very short amount of time. And when you don't have that history behind you, you're not quite sure what you're looking at, and you kind of think you're able to say anything. Say it to anyone and say anything you want. It's a bit like Twitter, and there's no response, there's no reaction to it. Whereas in the 80s, you get a smack on the bum. Now you don't get anything, and they just feel they can say anything to anybody, and it's not. I think the game itself is so honest in how it's done and how the players are at every level. The supporters are kind of the people who try and keep that going. The fans are the new people. We've had this conversation before, fans versus supporters. And I think we're in the middle of that right now, where people think they can say anything they want, for whether they think it's for a giggle or for whatever. But they feel there's no repercussions. And eventually someone's going to, it's going to sound sinister what I'm about to say, but someone's eventually in a stadium going to pull them up on it, and they won't say it again. Now that's probably going to be a put down, a one-liner, which we all have. It's not going to be anything more than that, but it's the newer people coming in thinking they can say what they want. This isn't football, as the man says.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah, Nigel Quigley.
No, I agree with everything Keego says. I mean, I recall...
Thanks, Nigel. I'm going home now.
I'll see you later, mate. I remember the old days of Ravenhill when it was not quite 3 men and their dog, but it was hundreds rather than thousands of supporters. And now we're averaging, 13, 14,000 a week. And, that they come from somewhere. And many a time I've been in and we've heard things going on beside us. We've been up with the crowd of us, and we've done what was probably not very acceptable nowadays in old school rugby, and said, right, lads, shut it or you're not going to be here. And we'll put you out. That's it, And that was the end of it. But that's the way it was done. People look after their sport, look after their game. But yeah, it's creeping in on the pitch as well. And that's something I don't like to see. We're seeing a lot more back talk to referees as well from players. It's just a behaviour that's starting to creep into the game that I don't like. And I would like to see it stamped out. I don't know whether I'm fighting against an unstoppable train, but I can only hope, because the values of our game are fantastic. He was exactly right when he says, people get used to social media now and think they can say what they want when they want with no repercussions, because generally it's lines of text on a screen. But when you're in a stadium and you say something out of line and somebody actually pulls you on it, that's a slightly different scenario. But I can go 2 ways, can't I? That can go, okay, I've overstepped the mark here, or what are you talking about, mate? Bang. So, and we don't want to see that.
No, there's going to be a big shock. They're going to get a big shock, whether it's in a rugby stadium or in real life. They're going to get a shock. They're going to say something to the wrong person, and they won't be able to handle it. Yeah,
you're right, lad. And it ties in very, very nicely. I'm just going to bring welcome to everybody who's joined the show tonight. We've got Ian Gilbert, who is our Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to the Court of Madrid in Hola. I hope that you're well.
Stay safe, Ian.
Gregor, always good to have you on. Corinda Singh. Corinda, glad to see that you're better and back. Good man yourself. He says... Keego's Uncle Billy's in the house as well. Uncle Billy, welcome to the show. Corinna says, have I got new glasses? Yeah, the dog's at the other one. So Jill bought me these fantastic pair of things which just clip together. And there you go. So thanks very much for noticing those. Always good. Right. That point at Nigel and Kigo brings me into our second point. Eddie Jones was this week sanctioned by the RFU over comments he made about Southern Hemisphere ref Ben O'Keefe following last Saturday's narrow win over Wales. More on that shortly. Quote from the RFU, Eddie and the RFU regret any implication that Ben O'Keefe was biased in his decision making. We have outlined the position of the tournament organisers, the Six Nations, and World Rugby, who will pass on our apologies to Ben O'Keefe and the match official teams. Pass on the bloody apology yourself, you lazy. God, Jesus, I gross me. Right to the man. If you're going to apologise to the ref for coming out and calling him a upshite, then at least, or saying he was biased, at least have the courtesy to write him formally, or even better, put a phone call into him. Anyway, in the meantime, Eddie Jones and the RFU have proposed a high-level discussion forum with World Rugby to help achieve greater general alignment between coaches and match officials. Gareth Rees, what do you think about what the lads have said and the whole issue of backchat from players and disrespect from coaches and et cetera, et cetera?
Well, it is a growing problem in the game. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know whether Eddie Jones is boxing clever and is working his ticket, because he's going into discussions at the end of the Six Nations, whatever that might be. It might come sooner. Word has it that he was nearly sacked and binned in South Africa. So whether he is actually laying the pathway for him to slide away because he's beginning to lose the players, or he's known as a guy who's very good for short turns, and whether he sees the time up and this is a way for him to start sliding out the door. But there is no place for it. You can have your inner feelings, but if you're in a position like he is, you have no right to voice them in front of millions of people. He does the game a great disservice.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He does, and that segues nicely on. Geez, I didn't realise that you guys lads were that good that you could segue me into the next bit of stuff. Tournament organisers for Japan's top league have announced that 3 rounds of fixtures this month have been suspended after the arrest of a player involved in their league. Not the first time Japan's top rugby league and Rugby Union League has had issues in the last couple of years. The Haino Red Dolphins, Joel Everson, a New Zealand native, I only say that because he's playing in Japan, and it's directly from the quote, for anybody shouts at me for saying, oh, he's saying he's from New Zealand. No, he's not the only one who's been covered. Well, anyway, he was reportedly arrested last week for alleged cocaine use. As a result, the Japan Rugby Football Union and their top league have decided to take drastic measures of suspending the entire next 3 rounds of the competition in order to carry out a full investigation. They are hoping that the investigation and the 3 rounds will aim to restore the public's faith in rugby's core values. Diaries, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it all starts at the top, really. And when you have top officials, right, saying what he said, you know, it's a disgrace basically to himself, but the union he represents, you know. The referee, you know, referees today can be binned just like players. You know, if they make more than 10% errors, they're binned, you know, and it's their livelihood. So, you know, I think they're on top of the game. I think the refereeing today is at the elite level is as good as it can get. I mean, getting back to your other question, you know, when I played rugby in the late 60s and 70s, it was a brutal game. In the likes of the vast, if you went to ground, you got a kick in, you got a shoe in. And they would put referee up on it, you know. But it's got to be dealt with. And people today talk about snowflakes. I don't know about that. You know, we live in a modern society. By saying certain things, you know, you just cannot do it today. And you've got to take the disciplinary action to get these players to where they should be as well behaved, because it influences younger players. And how many million people watch the game today, you know? I mean, Marla, they disgraced, you know. What goes on in the changing rooms goes on in the changing rooms, right? There's no cameras, I hope, in there, but you never know today, do you? But he should, he got 10 weeks. I think he was lucky to get that. But, the game moves on, and it's up to the officials to deal with it. And in these extreme cases, they should be dealt with harshly by banning them, which hits their pocket as well.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's sort of segues. You're quite right. Sorry, mate. You're quite right in the fact that it is led from the top. And I go, therefore, segue back into the point of what Japan have done, I think, for that transgression there, not the first time, is a great way to set that example. Nigel, very quickly, thoughts on that? Good decision by the Japanese organisers to set the stall out where we won't tolerate any of this?
I think, especially with drugs, in certain nations, a bit of problems. They've got to deal with that harshly, because that will just creep in further and further, especially when it starts moving into enhancing drugs, performance enhancing drugs and stuff like that. To me, they're all drugs. They've got to be kicked out of the game. That's it, regardless if it's for leisure or performance. Yeah. As far as Eddie Jones goes, totally. I actually said at the time he could be in trouble for that, and should be. You can't say things like that about referees at the coaching level, because all you're doing is encouraging the same behaviour from your players and the fans, and we see that. He's hugely supported because he opens his gob every chance he gets. But sometimes he should really just keep it shut, and that's one occasion he should have. What he did was wrong, totally wrong, and he should be punished for it. No problem with that.
I'd just like to say, Marler and Jones are recidivists, right? They're habitual offenders. And these people, especially players, if they're dirty players and they keep on, they shouldn't pick them. They should just not pick these players. And with the likes of Jones, he should be reprimanded, and he has been reprimanded. And then, if he carries on that way, he should be binned.
Absolutely. Nigel, sorry, Kigo.
So we have the same barber, so yeah, it's easy to mistake. But no, like the problem is, you look at Tuilagi as well. They're walking away with, far less than they should have got. Even if you go in at the base level, they're walking away winning. You know what I mean? They're walking away going, yeah, 3 weeks or 4 weeks for Tuilagi, he can do that 4 times a year. You know what I mean? So there's no impetus for him to change what he's doing.
But his actions could finish the career of somebody in a second.
100%. If North wasn't such a beast, and there wasn't literally inches in the difference, there would have been serious damage. Aside from the fact that North has head trauma and stuff like that, it's just like he's lucky that there wasn't damage done and everyone got up.
The only saving grace for Neil, for me, is that Mano isn't really like that. I think he was tired. It was sloppy. It was poor technique. Gareth, our expert coach here on this, but he's not that type of individual. Some are. Mano isn't really, and I think it was just that he straight away he knew, and that's why he went across to George. But it is, whether it's accidental or not, it can be. It can be.
But in terms of disciplinary stuff, though, like, okay, this instance, he's not okay. If you say in this instance you give him the benefit of the doubt, that's being a grown-up, Joe. Not a lot of us are. So if you do that, that's fine. But if you look at his career, he's not an angel in terms of his discipline record. And look, I whether he did it on purpose, I don't. When you're moving at that speed and you're that big, it's very difficult. But the fact is, he knew what he was doing. He's old enough and bold enough,
Yeah, I'm in a virtual room, and yet I still feel I'm close to you, mate, on my size, and I'm not moving half as fast as Mano is. Right, we need to move on otherwise. But thank you for your thoughts on Bod's breaking news. I'll pass the reports back to Bod. He'll be well chuffed. Deb Stairs, good evening to you from a windy, cold Staffordshire. Welcome, great to see you back. Dermot's on here, agreed, not sure with what, but Dem's a good man himself. He's a good man. He's a good man. Ian Good in Madrid, thanks, Kigo. B-Dub, copy B-Dub. How are you, brother? I hope you're well. Looking good, fellas. Well, one or two of us are looking, the other is looking old. Jazz is on from Fort William in the Highlands. Jazz, good evening to you. Great to chat to you this morning. Zakaya, that sanction was pathetic. I'm not sure which one. I think she's probably talking about
all of them.
Our friend, yeah, all of them, yeah. And Zakaya saying, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot that. Z, yeah, Ben O'Keefe is from her hometown. There you go. And I think she's referring to the point of Japan's tournament organisers closing their thing down closing the league down for 3 months because one of the players for the Red whatever they are, was arrested last week, allegedly for the use of cocaine, and they have sent a message out, which is good. Neil Keegan, very quickly.
Really quick.
Yes.
Japan have done the rugby equivalent of slapping someone who talks the way that they talk to Nick Williams. They've done the rugby equivalent of that. They've shut it down and they've stopped the behavior. And that's the way we need to deal with it. Saluting Japan until they get here in November.
Yeah, absolutely. Kate Beechner, Catherine, good evening to you. I hope that you are well. Kieran Gleeson. Kieran, how are you? If you give these players an inch, they'll take a mile sometimes. I understand that they are humans, except that I'm not with I have to be glasses on. Sorry, Kieran. I hope you all need to catch up with you next week. There we go. My new fanny glasses on. Still can't see it very well. I understand that they are human, etc., but they are role models for kids, and anything that they do brings the club, the country, and themselves into disrepute should be scrutinised more. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, anything that they do, yes, brings them into. Should be scrutinised more. You're absolutely right. We've lost Di again. This signal seems a little bit poor tonight, but we'll crack on. Right. So, on with the show. First item, if we can crack on through that, lads. That was a good, interesting little chat there. Thank you for that. You pointed on that. Mam's purse. While we're waiting for Di to come back, Gareth, what have you?
While he's out of the room.
Yeah. We've only got about 3 minutes for each segment now. So, bless him. So, how's Man's Purse? How's the story been going? And where have you been to over the last 12 months, mate?
Well, obviously, people know that it came about this time last year for the Six Nations. Guinness obviously thought that it had served a decent purpose with them because they're showing it again. And obviously, Di and I, wherever we've been in the Six Nations, in Cardiff, particularly in Dublin, the welcome was just extraordinary. Hang on, David's ringing me. Hang on a second. Oh, you are, though. You'll have to come back in. All right.
Sometimes I'll get questions. I'll get people sort of. I must ask people for permission if I can stick some of their quotes and comments to me. I get PMs sometimes. People say, "Is the show really just a bit of crack, or is it staged and you're just all exceptionally good at what you do?" Oh Jesus, we wouldn't be that clever if we did. Keegan wouldn't be playing his trade. Sorry, Gareth, on you go.
As I say, people are still engaged with it, which is wonderful for us because they show us great camaraderie and things. When we came to Dublin for the game, we'll forget the match, but the welcome we received was quite extraordinary. I mean, we probably stopped and were asked for photographs over 100 times on match day alone. People were very generous, in the way that they treated us. And it's been like that up in Twickenham last weekend, exactly the same thing. People asking us for photographs. The strange thing is they say things like, "Well, you're celebrities," and we're going, "Well, we're not really. We're just, it's just a story that has broken, and we're fortunate enough that we've been part of it." But it's gratifying to see that people are very not only engaged with it, but keep saying, keep the memory of your mum alive. In fact, first game in Cardiff, 2 brothers came into the pub, started speaking to us, and said, "We're so taken by it. When our mum passed away, we've brought one of her purses, and we're going to take that to every game that we go to." So, it's brilliant to see. I mean, Di and I went out to Japan. Same thing from people, particularly in the Six Nations, because that's where it's been seen. Although a mate of mine saw it in a bar in Washington, frightened him to death. The fact that people recognise us, that's okay, but it's the way that they respond about the ad, which is the gratifying thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely superb. What was your late mother's name?
Well, she was Margaret Olive. For most of her life, she was known as Olive. And then later on, she decided to go back to being Margaret. So she was Margaret Olive Rees. Formerly
Margaret Olive Rees. Well, I'll tell you what, Margaret Olive Rees, we raise a glass to you as well as to Matthew Watkins tonight. Yeah, Welsh lady and a Welsh
Thank
man.
you very much.
God bless you both. And because it is, I genuinely, when I saw it last year, I was so taken with it. And then we took us about 6 or 8 weeks, and we managed to get permission from the agent from Guinness. And I had a short-ish conversation with Di, and then we went forward. Okay, all right, I'm lying to my teeth. It was a morning's conversation with Di, and in which I got the whole backstory of life, and it was fab, guys. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. Di, what's the best thing that's happened to you on your travels in the last 12 months? Great to have you back.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. I thought, you dealt with that well, just getting rid of me, but there we go. Yeah. Well, it was a fantastic one. It's tremendous. The Grand Slam was just something else, and the welcome we received. And I don't know if my Gareth mentioned it, but the trip to Japan with MSG was just fantastic. I mean, the welcome we got there, it was just out of this world. The Japanese put on such a great show. And I was quite surprised how many people recognized us from, all around the world, really. And, it was all positive. It was all positive, And we traveled the length and breadth of Japan, and we met some beautiful people and all the rest of it. But it's like this year when we went over to Ireland, probably had the best reception we could ever have. We were mobbed, to be honest, in places, especially by the women folk, because they loved the advert, didn't they? Army, mammy, this. I remember a story going back when it was at the European Cup, right, in Newcastle. And what a fantastic venue that was, and everybody was coming up to me, and this Irishman came up to me, he said, Jesus, he said, you're the purse. I said, well, I'm half of the purse. And he said, oh, my mammy would love to speak to you. I said, yeah, put her on. And she was, I love that, it's a fantastic story, It emphasizes, what she's good in the game and all that. Says, are you going to do the best for your son and do the same? And she said, no. I'm going to spend all the money on Guinness myself.
Good girl. Whichever way it goes, it's a winner for everybody. Nigel, welcome back in.
Saying it's not really about us. It's a tribute to our mum, really, who loved the game of rugby just as much as we did. And it's all been positive.
Good. Right. Talking about rugby then, Gareth, your thoughts on last weekend's slight narrow loss then, very quickly, to England, to Twickenham. Thoughts on the game overall? I know they got...
Basically, the score flattered Wales. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
We were outpowered. We changed aspects of our attack game to try and nullify the very fast line speed of the English defence. Actually, by playing out the back as opposed to the way we played earlier, which was flat to pods of 2 or 3. The problem is they kept advancing very quickly, and we kept getting caught in the back field. We got caught behind the gain line so often, and we lost the kicking battle. We were battered physically. We lost the game because of their defence and our inability to play in the right areas of the field. The late scores made it look close, but in reality, it wasn't close, really. And we go up there. It's not a happy hunting ground, and to be honest, the score, as I said, flattered us, and we were lucky to get away with people thinking, positively about the game, because it was exciting, and the Welsh triumph after half time was exceptional. But moments like that for the Welsh supporters were few and far between.
Yeah, look at new coaches in, and as good as Wayne Pivac is, and I do rate him, I think it's like everything, it takes time to bed down and settle in, and we saw that about France, didn't we? Nigel, what were your thoughts on England-Wales?
I think, well, as a neutral, I think Wales did better than maybe Gareth feels. I can understand the disappointment, but I mean, they did a better job than Ireland did, frankly, because they kind of withheld that first half onslaught, which is what England did. I mean, realistically, England are a bit like France, I think, in the sense that their plan is to blow you away in the first half, and it doesn't really matter what happens in the second half. But they didn't do that, and you kept in touch with them. Yeah, I know what you're saying, and probably, I mean, Keego would be the stats man. He could tell us probably more about the stats, but they only tell part of the story, I think. I mean, I recall a game Ireland played in Scotland where we had 66 or 60% of possession and territory and lost the game. It's what you do with the chances, isn't it? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's the points that count. And you know, we all want to see 15-15. I suppose that's the fair way to win a game, but people break rules. Little disappointed in the Welsh coach saying that the referee cost Wales the game. I thought you can't say things like that because, you know, the guys want to go out and win at 15v15, don't they? That's not how you want to win a game. So no. I thought Wales played fairly well, but they were like Ireland, but not as badly, dominated early on in the game in the first half. But I mean, and teams have got to learn this with England. That's what they do. They blitz out first half. They blow you away. France have tried it. Scotland found them out at the weekend. And you've got to counter that and stay in touch with them and play your game as well. I think teams get sucked into playing a defensive game against England and their game goes out the window. Then comes the second half when they run out of a bit of puff. The opposition then go, all right, let's play the game we plan to play, and they go at them. You know, so you know,
you're right. And both Ireland and Wales did that in the second half, didn't they? I mean, England. I have to say, England's line speed. The one of the reasons why they're offside so many bloody times is the line speed is unbelievably fast, and we know it's coming. Wales knew it was coming because you could see what they did against us as well, and yet nothing. They didn't really adapt to that until the second half. Hi, Reese. Brief thought on the Wales England game.
Well, let's start from the premise that Twickenham is not a happy hunting ground, is it?
No, not you, maybe.
History has shown us that for the Irish, the Welsh, the Scottish, the French, it's a hard place to go. And those yeomen of England, they played a very, very physical game. You know, they out-muscled us. At the end of the day, they out-muscled us. Yeah, we came back well in the end, but like my brother said, I'll ditch him most of what he says, you know. They outplayed us. They outplayed. You know. And they, like last year, you know, we played a very cautious game. This year we played a more inventive game. And we paid the cost, right? It's like all teams, the officials and people get together, the coaches, and they twig your game plan. You try to change it a bit, you get caught out. And Wales were caught out. I mean, a fantastic day out, without a doubt. I met loads of old English pals, Welsh pals and all that. You've got to differentiate between the day out and the game. The game, disappointing. But it was exciting. And like my brother said, that try was fantastic from the kickoff. I mean, as Bill McLaren said, that was right out of the top drawer. That will be the try of the season, that one.
Yeah,
I had a fantastic...
It was
most well.
And Keego's got a stat.
You know, we've got to look at that game. We've got to go forward, and we've got to have a big win against Scotland. You know, because if we don't, that carries on to the World Cup, and it could be disastrous.
Absolutely, Keego, stats. England, Wales, very briefly.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I know. If you're wearing a red shirt, it might have been a difficult day. But if you look at the stats, which don't tell the story, but the penalties conceded in their own half tells one story, and Wales only conceded 6 in the whole game. England conceded 9. So it shows that there's pressure coming somewhere from someone in a red shirt towards a white shirt, which is a positive to have. I think the problem both of our countries have had against England is we have realised how to manage the game too late in the game. Whereas if you start offensively, you at least get yourself in the shop window to get a score. The same in the France-Scotland game. Scotland put the pressure on and forced 9 penalties out of France in their own half. If you do that, you're starting to strangle them, and that's very simply, it's a good sign that you're doing something right. Now, whether you take advantage of that or not is a separate issue. You know, Wales been in transition, new coaches, things like that. You know, betting scandals, all that sort of stuff. You got to get over that and then start finding your way, much like us. But once you're starting to force penalties out of someone in their own half, you're on the way.
Yeah, cool. Z adds in a very, very good point. The rush defence is defective because the offsides are not being picked up. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. And why is it an excellent point? Because Z put it up, and I have to say that. And otherwise, she'll beat me up virtually. Seriously, it's no, it's a very, very good point because actually, Z's right. and I brought the point I brought up about the offsides, why they are offside so often. They're not getting pinged. If they were getting pinged enough, it would hold England back because they'd have to start measuring. If they were picked up in that first 20 minutes when they are so fast off the line and they are so fast going forward, if they were picked up in that first 20 minutes 3 or 4 times for being offside too much by the officials, then it would actually temper a little bit and being allowed to get away with it an awful lot more. So that's yeah. She says, yeah, if I don't say nice things, basically she will.
But look, we've got to be serious. They weren't offside, even though I think that they're offside. It's up to the referee, the 2 lines people, and the TMO to get involved. If they don't get involved, they're not offside. And I think that's the problem with the reactions on certain things, like the Martyr thing and the standard thing as well, and the Ireland game in general. The reaction always gets twice the punishment because they don't see the instigation. And this is the issue. There's so many officials involved that they should be getting involved, but they're petrified of making a decision. And I think that's the biggest issue coming out of this truncated Six Nations.
I think what it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
They were fast, they were physical, but they were very, very strong. Upper body strength, incredible, and their tackles, superb. Yeah, I hear what you say about the officials and everything. You could have 20 officials; they miss some things, but it was a great win for England. And it was disappointing for Wales, but it wasn't. It was a very close game in the end.
It was right.
We fell short again. We need to win the game to beat Scotland. That's for sure.
Regarding the offsides, very quickly. Regarding the offsides, we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago when Keith Lewis was on, and there was talk of I can't remember which game it was about how many offsides were on it. He actually looked at the game, looked at the official reports, and they weren't offsides. That's what Keiko was saying. And the camera angles are we get one camera angle live. Those guys are looking at 5, 6, 7 camera angles and making the decision. So it's a bit of a slanted view we've got. I think Keith covered that very well a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. But again, I because of that, I did genuinely watch it out for it. And the line speed is so good and so fast that that actually, when you go back and you watch it again, England on that, not the set piece so much, but certainly on their line speed moving forward, they're way. Anyway, we could debate that. Some bloke called Eel Keegan says that England have more line speed than the Guns N' Roses gig in the 80s. There you go. Ian Gilbert in Madrid says it's easy to spot one player in a
nail on the head right there. Nail on the head.
If a defense push up as a line, it's not that easy. Absolutely. There we go. Dave Toppin is on. Wingnut, great to hear from you, buddy. Right. Very, very briefly, Scotland and France. Neil Keegan, start us off.
William Wallace was in the house that day, and it kind of papers over a few cracks. It's a matter of if they do it twice. Okay,
great point. Gareth. Was Scotland good? Was France in Scotland? Was it a good run overall for you for them?
It was a good game to watch as the neutral. I felt that obviously Scotland had pulled back from their over-adventurous play that they've been trying to do. They were more pragmatic. They took France on up front, and particularly around the fringes, they picked and goed and started to drag them in. France then came under pressure. Losing Ntamack was probably, we can never tell with the influence of that, because the boy that came on, I'm afraid, looked as though they just found him in the crowd somewhere. He didn't seem to sync with any of their attack strategies and understand the kicking game or the attacking game. And then obviously the sending off was pivotal because then they were under pressure. And, it's an old cliche, but then they turned into the France that we haven't seen apart from the one incident against Wales in the World Cup. We haven't seen that for a while. We thought they turned a corner, but under pressure, they reverted back to something that isn't as good a model. I'm sure that Monday or whenever they went into camp, Sean Edwards, whatever French he picked up, will have given them hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a substandard performance, given the way that they had shown that how they could play in the previous rounds.
Absolutely, and I think that I think we only need to move on. We want to look at the other stuff, but I think that I think it was great for the Six Nations because actually it added a little bit of sparkle to where games are cancelled, and the men's, the women's, the under-20s. It is all falling apart now. I'm still surprised that the Wales Scotland, the only surviving game in the men's competition that's going ahead this weekend, and. We're not going to sort of review that because I want to do the other topics, but it will be very interesting. If it still does go ahead, and I think at this stage it probably has to, because people sort of travelling down.
Yeah, we've booked our train tickets now.
Yeah, so it so I think it's but you don't need a visa within country though, do you? I mean Brexit hasn't gone that far for you yet. But there we go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, moving on very quickly. Yeah, no, it was good for the Six Nations. The only thing I think that should have happened with the Six Nations now is the original idea that was muted early on this week online. We were chatting with different people. Was actually they should have put the Ireland-Italy game back to the week before October, and then still had a Super Saturday, which would have really, I think, from a marketing and from an optics point of view, and from a regenerating every pause back in. Finishing on a Super Saturday is always great, especially when it's all up in the air and anybody could do it. So having the Ireland Italy in before, I would like to have seen that, but it's that's it's not going to happen. But look, the end of the day is we have to think about, regardless of what people's views are on COVID-19, it is an issue, and we need to take into account those people first. Very briefly, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to say hats off to Scotland. A fantastic win for them, Yeah. They've gone through some really bleak times, and France were on a bit of a roll. But, indiscipline again cost them the game. But on this Saturday should be a real humdinger. Both of the teams have got a lot to prove, And you look at past games against Wales and Scotland have been some really fantastic games. I mean, that one I think it was in 2010, where we turned it around in the last 7 or 8 minutes, was probably one of the best comebacks in the history of rugby. Scotland, fair play on them, and Wales, we need a big win this Sunday.
Absolutely, and at least we have a game going on. I think you're right. I think it'll be really good. From from Neil Keegan, France had a shot to show they wanted to win. And they wilted a bit against the Scots. I think they wilted a lot, actually. I think they were outplayed in an awful lot of ways by Scotland. Scotland were good. Pressure is just not for tyres and bra straps. There you go. Is that your one line? Is it you use, mate, when you were on the
kid? I await the abuse from our female supporters.
Zacchaeus says a train wreck for France. It was like the Hurricanes game in Super Rugby. Yeah, geez, we got Super Rugby on next week, so we'll be covering some of those things as well. John Dan said, John, good evening to you. If ever Sean Edwards has become fluent in French, I can imagine him shouting so much that they wouldn't be able to understand him anyway. Dermot says Scotland need to match the excellent France performance to prove they are turning the corner. I thought that there's two stand-up plays. I really do think that young Hastings, Adam Hastings, is doing really, really well. I think he's settling into the role. Very, very good personally. There's something about him. I was chatting with on the Scottish Rugby Forum the other day. I put a thing up saying, well done. There's something about Adam Hastings. I can't put my finger on, but he just gives me that quiet assuredness that he is going to grow into something special. And everybody's going on about Finn being missed and stuff like that, but I think Adam Hastings is going to be good. And one of the standout players in rugby for me in the Northern Hemisphere this year in any competitions is Hamish Watson. I just think he's not the biggest, but I just think he's an absolutely outstanding flanker. Really, really good. And I think for the Lions 21 tour next year to South Africa, the back row is going to be a real difficult choice because there's some real quality there. Right. So moving on. Well done, Scotland. Well done, England. We won't go into any of the other shenanigans that went on there. Z is saying just like his dad. Yep, absolutely. Right. So Scrums. Gareth, we had this. Gareth brought up the point for us. Brilliant Scrums. Are Scrums being overcoached by the ref? One of my hates, other than box kicking and scrum halves, as everybody knows, is crooked feet. Blah 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 blah. And I understand why it's done and everything now. But Gareth, talk us through scrums and your perception of scrums and the issues now and how much time we're wasting, etc., etc.
The time wasting is a massive issue. You know, the changes in the scrummaging laws brought about for needs of player safety, they've taken away the big hit. They've taken away the hit and chase, which once a team was going forward, the strike was very, very easy. What it allowed, however, was it allowed teams to get the right head up to make effective attacks against a disadvantaged defence, and it allowed them to play away with pace. Once you've taken the hit away, it's an isometric contraction with forces in all different directions. They had to then change it to allow the scrum half to stand to the side, and as long as the ball is struck, they don't really care where it goes. But the problem is, when you play on from a static scrimmage, particularly the ones that have gone down, you get too many number 8s then picking up, so you get massive midfield collisions, one-on-one collisions, more injuries. So they've got the balance all wrong. Too many scrummages are going down because people are now, it's a penalty fest. They're looking for angles. They're looking to split the hooker and the props so that they can just get it twisted and go. The referee has already spoken to them in the changing rooms. He doesn't need to re-emphasize that 5 or 6 times during the game and ask for stability, etc., etc. He needs to do something. He's talking for far too long. The players are then taking too long to reset, and the whole thing is detracting. We need to keep what are intrinsically great aspects of our game, but we're doing it a disservice because too long is being spent on the reset process, not the scrimmage itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, yes, before I bring Kigo in our panelist group that I had this week, I shared the 1991 Rugby World Cup quarter-final, Ireland versus Australia, that we've got Campo speaking about in a couple of weeks' time. And a couple of things I noticed on there was the scrums. The players came together. The referee made the mark like the old bull. That's it. Stood back. Players came together. Ball was in. That was it. Players knew what they needed to do. Ref made the mark. Stood back. It got on with it. And I was like, and I'd forgotten just how quick and simple it used to be. And it was a great point you brought up, Gareth. And I'm glad you have, because it just there was it Murray Kinsella? I think you shared a link to me. He was waiting 8 minutes or something. It's just ridiculous amount of time. It was on Kigo. I know you want to come in on this one.
Just really quickly, and I do love watching the old tapes where it's like if you make it to the scrum on time, you're in the scrum. If you don't, you're not, and that it just rolls on from there. But the problem is the job that the front row are being asked to do, the pack is being asked to do now, is very different to back then. So the reset is partly to get oxygen into their body, as well as kind of a mental reset because of the work they've had to go through. If you look at what Tyke Furlong, Herring and Healy had to get through in the games we've played in the Six Nations, part of the reason for the resets is it's basically a professional foul. If I take my green underpants off, they're looking for a few extra seconds to suck in some wind. That's what the reset is. Now, if you turn around and you say, right, the ref is going to miss something on the opposite side every time. Was it Kilcoyne? In one of the games, Kilcoyne comes on, gets pinged twice. The ref comes to his side, and he figures it out, which is great that he did that. But that means that the other side now has a free pass to do anything they want. So if you get the linesman, lineswoman, linesperson lined up opposite the referee on their side, you're going to see everything in the scrum, which will speed it all up. If I come up on the loose head side and the ref is over here, then the lines person is going to call it and we move on. I think part of it is the reset is partly to take care of the players, but it's also it is killing things because there's 30 pairs of legs in there. We don't know what's going on. We know that sometimes they're trying to push people out of the scrum. That's quite obvious when you're looking down on it. So the TMO should be getting involved. I think everything comes down to the officials talking to each other, because the players are going to push that line, whether it's the offside line or whatever. They're going to push that until they're told to stop pushing. And it's up to the referees and the official parties to get together and say, look, your man over on the one side is doing something. What was it? O'Mahony used to bind different ways depending on what he wanted. Yeah. And that's not I'm not, we love Munster right now. We're all in green for a minute, but it's, all this sort of cheeky stuff can be stopped if the officials get involved together, because it's basically a big pile of cheekiness that not a lot of people know. Past the physicality of the no hit, we don't. It's basically like Never Neverland. We don't know what happens in there.
Absolutely. Okay, so Z says scrums are taken way too long, almost as long as Farrell takes for a kick.
Or for me to make a point, that's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back just go back with Adam Hastings is a slow burner. This is good. Let him blossom. Gavin Scott are big shoes to fill.
It takes balls to put him in there and keep him in there. So salute the Scottish team. It takes serious testicles, baby, please, to keep him in there for the entire tournament. So fair play.
Absolutely.
We haven't done it.
Catherine Beaton says she's trying to get her local pub to show England versus the All Blacks game from November 2018 after the Scotland-Wales game to make up for the loss of Ireland versus France game. One of the difficulties, I think, with a lot of the games closing down, I think the COVID-19 thing is going to stop. In Ireland, we announced today that no more than 100 people in any one gathering. So I think the whole thing, even pubs and venues and stuff, are all going to be scrumming down a bit. White Walker 1, Nigel Quigley, scrums. What's your take on them, mate?
It's madness. Time being wasted on them. Okay, go. I hope those underpants started off green too. But look, it's what Keego says. Get the officials up in line, watching it from both sides. Let the ref take a closer look at it, and bar things like weather conditions and slips where you reset. Fair enough. You allow one drop. The next time, make a bloody call. If it's a free kick or a penalty kick, yeah, ping them. Ping somebody. Whoever looks the most likely, ping them. Because the tackles are really good having these conversations. Oh, 2 front rows over. Let's have a chat. Personalities.
People are changing behaviour because of the tackles. Do the same at the scrummage.
Regarding
free kick them.
Just one thing, Gareth.
And then it's not.
Regarding the, I get your point about the cricket feeds and the number 8s carrying, and you get midfield contacts. But I'm going back in the day here. It used to go out via the scrum after the out half more often. But as I'm sure you well know, the opposition's open side flankers' one job was take that out half out. So those contacts tended to happen anyway. To be honest, I wasn't. You wouldn't believe it, but I was an open side flanker, and that was my target. Get him. It didn't matter. Or not, I got him.
and Z brings up another good point. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Ping them for talking back as well. But there you go. Yeah, I'm going to bring Di in very quickly. But ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the show. 3 Blokes, a Ball and BOD, and tonight we are doing the show in memory of Matthew J. Watkins, Wales centre, who passed away.
Fine man, you are.
Yeah, fine man yourself, sir. Who passed away last week, played for Gloucester and Scarlet and the Dragons, and 18 times for Wales between 2003 2006. Passed away last week in cancer. A great man. So tonight, Matthew, remember you. We're supported as ever by our good friends from the Asia Security and Protection Group, who are currently helping thousands of people across the regions get across the world. If you need any advice on security or executive protection or moving of kit, anything like that, then contact us. We've got a lot of people in touch with them already. And as ever, we are sustained by our official suppliers to 3 coffeedog.ie. And don't forget, go to coffeedog.ie, and when you put your order in, put the people contact me this week, put the promotion code SHEP, SHEP, and you'll get 20% off your order because they are now our official suppliers. Good. So scrums, right, very quickly. Neil Keegan, tell me one thing that you would like to see on a scrum that you think would change things overnight.
Very simply, involve the lines person that's on that side of the pitch. Get at least a 180-degree view of what's going on, and then everything speeds up. That'd be the quickest and easiest thing to get involved.
Good man. Di, your thoughts?
Well, I give my brother due deference on very few things, but I think his analysis on the scrum was superb. Yeah, it's changed so much over the years, the scrummage, isn't it? I mean, it seems to me that they put it in the back row now. My brother will argue about this, but it doesn't. you never see anybody winning any balls against the head anymore, you know, and that was a real great thing in a game, you know. The crowd used to roar when, you know, someone won again. I don't think you'll ever see that again. You know, but the game changes, you know. To me, the way they interlock seems a bit namby-pamby, but I'm harking back to a former age, so, you know, what I say has probably got no relevance anyway. But, you know, the referee needs to sort it out. At the end of the day, he's the sole arbiter of law and fact. And if he's right or if he's wrong, he's always right.
And John Dancer says, stop the clock until they feed in. And Di's great point leads us into a nice little segue, of aggressive balance in the sport. I mean, the whole thing about hook, I mean, I don't know why they call it because they don't bloody well hook. There we go. Aggressive balance in the sport. Well, they do, but not that type of hooking.
I could have been a contender. I could have been someone. It was my 9, Eddie.
Aggressive balance in sport. Nice segue in there, Di. Well done, mate. So I'll last 2 or 3 minutes on this one. It is a physical game. We've talked about the red cards and the no-arm tackles. You know, Jesus, baby Faz is bad for that. Everybody's bad for doing that. There's aggression from, you know, I look at some big old units back in the day. I look at some modern ones today, Ebenezer and people like that. Not only a bad player, phenomenal player, but there's a level, there's a line on aggressive balance in sport. Nigel Quigley, do you think we've still got the right balance in the modern game? Or do you think it's like coaches need to sort of coach in a bit of temperance more? I
think let's be realistic. 90% of the time, I think we do. There's always been a bit of handbags in games, or everybody goes, hey, handbags, and that's about the height of the excitement in that. I mean, okay, back in the day, I mean, I'm looking around here, like the lads here, you know, when you had something to dish out, you didn't dish it out in open play. You waited till the next ruck or maul. There he is. Have that, mate, you know, and you think about it afterwards. But we've always seen a little bit more. It harks back to what Z was saying about chatting back to the referee. There's a little more tempestuous behavior from players in general. So you're going to see that when they get hyped up and get at each other. That punch by the prop at the weekend was ridiculous. I mean, he was never getting away with that. The Joe Marler thing, that was Joe Marler, and we probably shouldn't discuss that because that could go on forever. And we saw one actually in a Munster game last weekend as well, didn't we? Where a punch was thrown, landed to the head. We're seeing a little bit more of it, but I don't think we need to panic yet. It's not endemic throughout the game. Like 90% of the time, it's the same as always. But as long as we deal with them, I mean, 3 weeks the guy got, not sure about that, but, you know, as long as we deal with them, we punish the players, then there seem to be consequences for it. And that's the important thing, consequences. Do something wrong, you'll get punished. And I think we're still there.
Okay. Keegan.
For me, one of the most...
Oh, sorry, Gareth, go on. No,
For
Gareth,
me, one of the most physical reckless parts of the game is the way that players are coming in at any angle, clearing out players who are having a shot at the ball, who are completely legal. This idea that it's okay to come in, side, smash who you like, lead with your shoulders, no arm wrap, no pause, go off your feet. That is one of the worst things going on in the game. That is probably the most over-physical aspect of the game. It's a collision sport now, and you've got very big conditioned men colliding with each other. You can't get away with punching these days and fighting, because you saw that he got sent off. But that uncontrolled entry into breakdowns that could ruin people, absolutely ruin people's lives, leave alone their careers. And I would love to see someone from World Rugby stand up in a court of law and answer the question, well, that type of entry is against the law, isn't it? Yes, it is. Well, why is it going on in every game? And now it's led to this.
Are they not doing that though, Gareth? Is that not something they are looking at quite heavily this season?
But the problem is it takes 2 injuries for something to happen. Levy got done for it. One of our under-20s got done for it as well. Just coming in from, if you're watching on the telly, they're coming in from the road outside your house. You know what I mean? There's no way there's anywhere near the gate. and that did Levy in, and that I apologize, I can't remember the under-20s kid who got done as well. Now, they'll rebuild them and all that sort of stuff, but in terms of, it's a team-based combat sport that we enjoy, and there's an honesty behind that. You deal with a lot of things on the pitch. Generally, if a punch is thrown, you'll be fine. You'll get a card. Everyone has a pint afterwards, and it's done. It's exactly what Gareth is saying. It's the other stuff that is going past a combative element into a dangerous element, because it is a combative sport. But when you're coming in from the side and you're ripping people's knees up, Tuolagi was inches away from causing a broken neck over the weekend. Again, if he didn't mean to do it or not, he's whatever. And I'm not talking about tickling people's genitalia. That's different as well. But we're going past combat within a rule set into danger, and the game is dangerous enough. And that is why, for me, everything we've spoken about tonight, and I'll try and be quick, everything we've spoken about tonight revolves around, yeah, I've been known to waffle, but I eat them and I talk it. But yes, exactly, Joe. But it's all about the officials getting involved. If they get involved, a lot of our danger drops. If they don't, it's a danger for the players. That's it for me.
Mark Beaumont, Mark, good evening to you, who's our Englishman living in Australia. Mark, good evening, welcome, or good morning, it'll be for you, mate. The way tackling is going, it won't be long until the sternum will be the highest legal tackle, to which our good friend Ian Gilbert, our ambassador extraordinary in Madrid, says sternum the highest one of the tackle for Faf de Klerk. You're trying to dance with a little pony, isn't it? A really good point. I'm going to leave the last post from Feta and Matalese till the very end on scrums. Di, we are 1 minute 23 over. So give us your words of wisdom, mate, on aggressive balance in the sport. Where do you think we are?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean. These are latter-day gladiators. They're playing to the crowd, and some of them are playing because of the love of the sport. Some of them, like Marla, want to make names for themselves. They know if they do certain things, they can make money outside of actually playing, right? But the game has always been very physical, There's a very differential between a player who is dirty, who is hard, and who is physical, And the best players are those that play the game within the rules and are hard. And certain players like Delmy Thomas in the past, great English players like Rollitt and all the rest of them. You should look at these players and say, these are the people we look up to. It's a game that is physical. It's changing all the time, and it's not all about international rugby. It stems way back, going back to the ordinary little clubs that I came from, where the game was, could be really dirty and physical. But, it progresses, but the authorities have got to take hold of the game.
I can. I realise over the last 2 years the way the game has changed, and part of my learning curve, having been a prop, understanding now why the backs want to be the backs, because if you can run and sidestep and dodge, you're not going to get hit. So there's a bloody good reason, especially more in the modern game. Nigel, finish us off with a pearl of wisdom, sir.
Actually, the rucks is a very good one. I think that's one area where the danger is at its highest in the physical side of the game. They're looking heavily at tackles. They're changing the laws on that. Maybe they need to look at. I get the impression they are looking at contacts and rucks a lot more, because if I'm not mistaken, my perception is we're seeing a lot more penalties on ruck contact, and we need to, because as the rest of the panelists have said, it's dangerous. We've seen players taken out for long periods of time with these contacts. They're vicious. Again, as Di said, we've always had players over the years who were big, hard players. They could clear you out, but they did it illegally. There was no need to come in, as Kiko says, from the next street and do it, So, yeah, that's one area they could probably take an awful lot of problems out of the game, an awful lot of the injuries.
Cool. And we'll just go back to the scrums with this one from Feta Matalese. Feta, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Or it'll be good morning for you, but you want to. Hi, lads. Hello, beautiful ladies in the audience. That was for you, Kigo. My views and take on the scrum. This is the only phase of restart that is man on man, mano a mano, or manu a manu if he played in there. Well, yeah, Kigo.
Man on man.
Yay, so to speak. It is the beauty of rugby he, unlike anybody else, doesn't have a problem with the length of time it takes to get a scrum finished. Referees are all over buying into the pressure from fans and are now officiating this beautiful phase of the game with guesswork. I would love to discuss this more. We will discuss it more, but for now, we need to finish off because we're 5 minutes over. Thank you to everybody who has watched the show tonight. This tonight has been in memory of the great Matthew J. Watkins, centre for Wales, who sadly passed away at the age of 41 last week. Our thoughts to Stacey, his lovely wife.
Rest in peace,
brother. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you to Nigel Quigley, White Walker one for there in Ulster. Thank you to the man formerly known as, we can't say his name is public, but he is known as Kigo in Bray. Thank you to Gareth and Di Rees, legends in their own right, let alone from them. Ollie Rees for Mam's Purse, guys. Tonight we've been discussing a number of things on Bob's breaking news that took us into stuff. I'm just going to leave you very, very quickly with this one, which I didn't have, which I thought is very, very good. New Zealand Rugby has revealed the creation of an All Blacks 15, a new high-performance squad that will undertake a mini tour of Northern Hemisphere venues this year, October and November, I think it is. The team will play 3 matches in the last weekend of October and the first 2 weekends of November. New Zealand Rugby Chief Officer Nigel Cass said the team, which is set to practically function as a second string or developmental All Black side, will provide a new national team aspiration for current professional players. New Zealand not changing again. You heard it here. And until on next week's show, actually, we will be joined by 3 experts looking at Super Rugby rounds 1 to 7. So join us. And next week we will be back, God willing, to Wednesday at 20:30 hours. Look at Super Rugby rounds 1 to 7. And we very much look forward to that. Thank you very much for the panel's been on. Thank you, as ever, to everybody for watching. Please feel free to resend this on again and again and again, and to invite your friends to watch us every Wednesday, 20-30 hours. I have been Big Joe Shep. These are my fancy new clip-on glasses. Look, there we go. My ball. I'm more excited now because there's some rugby at the weekend. And look at me. You wouldn't think I was only 37, would you? I'm young and excitable. I'm Big Joe Shep. I love being on this show. Thank you to the rugby family. And just with regards to COVID-19, the coronavirus, I don't really care what you think about it, whether it's a hype or whether it's everything. Please don't take any risks. It's not just about you, it's about other people as well. So if it, it's sport, it's rugby, if it's cancelled for a year, guys, for freak's sake, we're still going to chat about stuff like we have tonight. We've adapted from last night to tonight. We've adapted from the Six Nations to talk about great subjects. We will still be there. If you need to chat to somebody, then please do. And I think that is Gareth showing us part of his man's purse. Wales versus gone because they've got a game this weekend. Until next week, then, we are 3 blokes. In fact, what's the last one? Where is from young Kieran there? Why doesn't Keegan talk about his blue underwear on the show as much as he does with us? Yeah, absolutely. It was green. It was green underwear today. It was green. That's just another story in its entirety. That's a separate show entirely. Whole show. And Keego, thanks very much to everybody. 3 Blokes of Ball BOD. I am Big Joe Shep. Until next week, enjoy the rugby at the weekend and pick a team to follow. Guramila Mahagat, like a slang to follow. Not star, what a take to everybody. Yeah, I enjoyed the show. Take care.